Welcome back to The Inspired Hustler, where I get to interview one of my besties here and her very inspiring story, Deb from Bowl Me Over. Tell us a little bit about yourself, famous food blogger, Deb.
Well, my name is Debra Clark. I'm a food blogger, and I've been a food blogger for, 12 years now. And my husband and I live in Oregon, and I would say I didn't even know what a food blogger was till I decided I wanted to be one. And so I started from scratch and built it from ground up.
I wouldn't believe this story, except for literally I've been along for the ride. I have to tell you, well, I'll tell you two things. Number one, here's who I'd really like to sponsor, Deb. Or me, whatever. I'm just trying to be in charge of Deb's sponsorships. I'm coming to you from Deb's sunroom right now in Oregon, which has been so amazing to get to spend the weekend with her. A real benefit in being self-employed. But half the stuff we were going through in her kitchen cooking, I'm like, where'd this come from? They sent it to me. I'm like, I am in the wrong business. People were sending stuff all day long. Deb and her running husband, award-winning running husband, I should like to mention, are also a really big fan of this element. It's like 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. Really great for low distance runners like myself and award-winning husbands like Deb's. It's out running 10 miles this morning. So if you want to jump on Deb's sponsorship list, just I'm going to be in charge of this for her. So I'll tell you, Deb and I met many, many, many years ago. I was running a cleaning company at that point. I was a newly single mom, and I think the technical word is hella poor. Like no money. And Deb was running another business, had ran an advertising agency, and let me trade. I think I could afford like, I don't know, a couple $100 a week in advertising, and the ads were more than that. And it didn't bring a lot of business, by the way. And Deb had a million ideas. She let me trade house cleaning. So I had girls come clean her house every week, and all my girls loved her. And then I finally got to meet her. And she said, "Oh, you know what you ought to be doing? You ought to be doing a newsletter every week." And I was like, "I don't know how to do that." "Yeah, it's like you go through MailChimp." I'm like, "I don't know how to set that up." She's like, "Just come on over." And she literally walked me through like how to do everything. Do you know what your analytics look like? I don't even know what analytics is. I mean, this woman just in a very short period of time showed me how amazingly generous a best friend should be. And she's been my really, really one of my very dear and bestest friends ever since. And I saw her grow this. I mean, the ads and print went by the wayside, right? We're in this world where Deb is constantly talking about the pivot. And I saw you do a couple other things in between that were most amazing that you pulled off. And you said, "I'm going to be a food blogger." I didn't even know what a food blogger was back then. So walk us through this journey of food blogging and how this dream started and what your beginning steps were.
Sure. So when I first began food blogging, it didn't even occur to me it was something to do to make money. And I also was recently divorced at that time and hella poor. So, I had met the man of my dreams. I might add on eHarmony. And
This is
we
the
met, we
award-winning
hit
husband you speak
the
of.
award-winning husband, yes. We dated for 2 years and then we got married and I moved to Fresno. And at the time, it's like, you know, you don't need to work. Hang on a quick sec. I had a slight technical difficulty. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't need to work at the time. So I was like, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to cook more. And then when I cooked more, then I'm like, I guess I'm going to put things online because I'm really sure people are tired of seeing it on Facebook. So I started a food blog. And at the time, I really didn't even know what a food blog was. But the more I did it, the more followers I had. I started social media accounts for Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, all the things. And just realized at first, I was like, wow, people pay you for this. You get
Mm-hmm,
sponsorships.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then it was like, I can make money at this. And then came
mm-hmm,
the realization I can make serious money at this. And that became my goal. It became a business. It
mm-hmm.
became something that I worked seriously hard to grow my business. And, eventually, long story short, I was able to retire my husband 2 years ago. We sold our home in California. We bought a house free and clear in Oregon, and life is good.
Well, I'd like to mention, Deb and I also started our running journey around the same time. Like, I love to run. Deb was already running distance. We started doing some marathons together, just, as best friends do. And we were out running one day in your neighborhood. You said, "Oh, I made this new jam. I don't know if you're gonna love it. It's, yeah." You told me the name of it, and you said, "I'm gonna post it out. I've got this little thing we call Girls Who Give a Jam," and I about peed my pants laughing. I thought you are just the queen of like invention. And right about the same time, you were helping a nonprofit that you turned me on to, and then I helped a lot of other people help because you're like, "You know about this great place? Come on down." You did this huge gala. Is that what it's called? Gala? I'm not fancy enough to
Gala?
know how to
Yes.
gala.
Yeah.
This amazing gala, and you said, "Hey, get on fancy dresses, come on down. I can give you free tickets, but here's what I need you to do. You need to give me, X, Y, and Z from your company. You need to do a free raffle prize and this, that, and the other." And that sponsorship that you put together from your contacts from your previous ad agency brought in like $15,000 to this nonprofit.
It actually brought in $15,000 the first year, $25,000 the second year. The third year was like 60, and now it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So
Obviously
I
we're no
think
longer involved, but yeah, it
you
continues to
took
this day.
you took something you knew how to do. You know how to grow businesses. You know how to get sponsors. You know how to give value. And using that same set of skills, you were able to turn what wasn't even a thing into a thing. And then basically do the same thing in a different way. Get these sponsorships, get these ads, which I think is just an incredible testimony to. I always say, if anybody can do it, it's you. And there's few people of that mindset. They can just figure it out. So walk us through the beginning of this. Because I mean, I know your story, but I think it's very inspiring for food bloggers or people in this weird economy that maybe need to pivot, that don't know how to maybe they haven't had to pivot before. I don't know. If you haven't been thrown upside down and gone through a divorce or a business fail or all of them at once, maybe you've never had this experience to have to pivot. So walk us through like your beginning steps and what that looked like.
When I started blogging, the name of my blog is Bowl Me Over. And the first thing is like, what's in a name? So a lot of things I eat are in a bowl. It just kind of seemed to come natural. And so Bowl Me Over became. And I didn't know anything about blog. I didn't know anything about platforms. I didn't know anything about SEO.
Mm,
But I knew marketing, so that's great. But blogging is a whole different a monster,
uh-huh.
and there's so many little ins and outs that you learn. And about the time you think you really know what you're talking about, everything changes. And so it's time to pivot. And, I didn't know how to write a blog post, so I became a better writer. I didn't know how to, what photography what pictures would be pretty,
Hmm.
so I became a better photographer. I wasn't sure what kind of food would resonate until I had my accountability partner, who is hands down fabulous. She's like, Deb, she's from South. She's like, Deb, you don't blog about food that people want to eat. She has this great Southern accent, and I was like, oh. I hadn't thought of that. So it's evolved from this is what we
Uh-huh.
had for dinner into knowing who my audience is, knowing what they're looking for, knowing their pain points. They're looking for quick and easy recipes for busy families without complicated ingredients. And if there's anything weird in it, like chia seeds, they're out of there. So I really stay true to my audience. I make sure that I listen to what they're asking for and provide them, because if I don't provide that value to them, there's
Hmm.
no reason to come here. They'll just go to chat gpt there.
Hmm.
So yeah. So really, before I hired out anyone to do anything, I learned it myself. I bootstrapped my business, and
Hmm.
rather than going out and getting a loan and spending X number of dollars, on your credit cards or whatever it is. It's like, no, if I can't do it myself, if I can't afford to do it myself, it's not getting done. So,
Hmm.
it really became a matter of, what the next step is. What can I take on now? After I mastered writing, then it was time. And I have lots of mastering to do before I've mastered writing, but before I've completed that, then it was, better pictures. Now that I know I have better pictures, and it's, I farmed out a few things on the blog, and it allowed me time to take a step back and look at the big picture and
Hmm.
really learn how to strategize what I'm doing.
Well, and I know the full story, so I'd like to brag on you just a little bit for that because I know of a time that you were working your ass off and making
Hmm.
like $800 a month in ads,
Hmm.
or very, very little. And I remember it came up to about 800. And right about that time, because we had run several things together, one of which we were doing what do we call that? A mastermind. We did a mastermind
Yes,
and a book club and accountability. And Deb and I are like, well, you might get that feel from a couple of girls that run marathons and businesses that we are big on accountability and building new bigger goals for one another and uplifting each other and holding each other accountable. It's like our favorite thing to do. So what we found was out of the group, Deb and I were mainly accountable to each other, and some of the other
yeah.
girls not so much. That was fine. We had like 19 girls at one point. It was a lot of fun to bring it together and have that girl time. But during this point in time, you're running $800 a month, working your ass off, and you started paying for coaching, which was
I did.
thousands of dollars a month to level up. And I thought, we don't talk enough about that in our businesses. We talk about, I just figured it out. Like, well, there's a lot of things I didn't just figure out. Thank God I had some amazing friend in a denim jean skirt that, offered to have me over and help me, which I was like just amazed. I thought you were like just a super cool business owner when you were like, just come over, I'll help you. That doesn't happen often enough in real life. Like, I want to be that person. I want to be that person that can just be like, come on over, let me show you, let me help you. That
Hmm.
abundant kind of mindset and just giving it all away. But when you don't have somebody like that that knows how to do all the things, it requires you paying for it. And that's not something we talk about often. We have this like, oh, Susie will just give it to you. Well, if Susie doesn't know how to do it, where do you go? How do you even find the help? And then how do you figure out what's going to be worth it to pay for? How was it for you?
It was interesting because there's lots of people out there. And you always hear if you can't, like if you can't do it, teach, or whatever that phrase is.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, thumbs up from from Google there.
Oh, that
But
was so funny.
yeah, but I talked to this one gal and actually worked with her for a while as a coach. And I realized her coaching always kind of segued back to her products. And I was like, okay,
Uh-huh.
that's not me. And I coached with the woman that's my accountability partner, Mary. I coached with her for a long time. And then we leveled up, and we're business partners and accountability partners at this time.
Uh-huh.
But then it was like, okay, what do I need to do? Because we're all so close to our own business. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I was probably making $2,000 a month, which sounds like a lot more than $800 a month. But it's not going to retire
Right.
your
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah. Right.
It's not going
Right.
to do
Right.
the
Yeah.
it's not going to do the job. Um, and I heard of a woman, and her name is Holly Homer, and she runs a blog called Kids Activities Blog. And it's kids activities. It's not a food blogger. So I kind of did my homework, and I learned more about her. And actually, Mary had hired her. My gal pal
Mm-hmm.
Mary had hired her, and she had incredible results. And I was like, okay, not everybody is for everybody though. So I
Mm-hmm.
met with Holly, and I realized, I was like, oh, I understand her. I understand, like I had to speak that same language. And it's not just blogging
Mm-hmm.
language, it's like big picture language. And so I hired her, and it was several $1,000s a month. It was more than I was making at the time. I think it's the only time I took my dollars and went, please God, and threw the
Uh-huh.
dice. And, immediately within the first 2 months, I tripled my income, and then, or doubled my income. And then I tripled my income. And then it was like, I worked with Holly for 4 months, and then intermittently we still meet and we still chat. Um, but was able to grow my business from, $12,000 a year to $450,000 a year. And, like, it's funny because, when you start, it's just a girl in a dream. And then, as we go, it's like, oh no, you can make serious money at this. And there's always something changing though. There's always a way you have to pivot. And if you think you got it figured out and you're just like, I'm just trudging along, you're going to be sorely disappointed 2 months down the road because you won't have it figured
Truly.
out.
of every single business, and it's the pivot. And I know, well, I mean, we have another bestie that's also in business, so we spend a lot of time with her. We get together every 6 weeks because Deb travels and makes that possible. But we call you the billionaire blogging bestie, because that is, I
Far
mean, and
from
it's
it.
like, oh my gosh, I can't. Well, I mean, I'm going to brag on you again, but we had a month that we were like, yeah, she's, okay, we're going out to lunch. Okay, girlfriend over here that's making 30 grand. You're like, last month was 48,000, but it was around holidays. Like, insanity that something I didn't even know could be a income you've made into an income and then doubled
Hmm.
from there, and really
Hmm.
doubled down when things got hard and did it again. So
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that. Like, what does your day-to-day look like in terms of changing things constantly in an algorithm that's always changing?
It's like getting your nose into your business. I know how many subscribers I have. I know how many people I have on Facebook. I check my analytics, not obsessively, but certainly consistently. And, my day consists of writing. I no longer photograph. I have a gal that's incredibly talented. She's much better than I ever could be or would want to be. So, I'm thrilled to have, like level up that quality of photography
Hmm.
on my blog. And then again, focusing, it always goes back to knowing who my audience is, and knowing what their pain points are. So when I'm looking for food and, like things to make on the blog, um, I don't want to make a super fancy dish because people I work with, people that follow me, they don't have time for super fancy. They just want to get dinner on the table when they get home at 5 o'clock, and there's two hungry kids, and their husband's like, "Should we stop and get takeout?" I want to
Uh-huh.
stop that for them. I want to help them with their budget, with feeding their family,
Hmm.
good food in a short period of time, and that's just not going to be complicated.
Hmm. Well, and I think there's a million other blogs that had the pleasure of going to a couple blogging conventions with Deb, which is so much fun to tag along and get to know other entrepreneurial women. I didn't think I'd have so much in common with. Whether you're in real estate or in food blogging, it's lonely out there when you're self-employed, and there's
Hmm.
not somebody to call and go, should I do this? Should I not? Should I pivot? What should I do? So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm surprised at how much of these things, how much of this pivot you have to do consistently in order to
Hmm.
keep that algorithm going, and what kind of blog you are running. Because it seemed to me, I initially, after the first blogging conference we went to, I thought, oh, it needs to be something really specific, low sugar, paleo, something along those lines. And you really have this niche, if you will, of easy comfort food that everybody loves. And you have this way of making everybody your friend. I mean, I tell you this all the time. I'm always at the gym at 6 a.m. when your email comes in. It's like, hey friend, what's on, what's in your refrigerator from the weekend? What are we putting together for dinner? And here's like 12 ideas of from tacos to a casserole that decide, depending on what's in your fridge, you could put together. And if we weren't for real besties, I would feel like this is my friend. I would feel like that. I'd want to get to know you. I'd want to see what you and your husband are doing. I'd want to know how cute your poodle is. I'd want to know. So how do you create that and put yourself out there where you really feel like a friend to everyone?
That's a challenge, and it's not something that came easy. And
Uh-huh.
again, my buddy Mary was like, Deb, you have to connect. And to realize, okay, so, everyone goes through this thought the first, well, no one cares. No one really cares
Uh-huh.
what it,
Uh-huh.
actually they do. And if you don't connect with your people, you might as well be talking to AI. So how I did that is, I just took that step, and, I don't call my husband the award-winning husband. His name is Dan, like his name is Dan, my name is Deb, my dog's name is Sammy, and then we have Jones. And, like, oh my gosh, Jones just did the silliest. So I tell them, I share with them my life, I share with them where we're going, what we're doing, not always in real time, but pretty darn close. And so, when I'm sending my emails, it's truly from the heart. And every email has to have value, and of course it has value with free recipes. There's there's a dozen
Hmm.
free
Hmm.
recipes, and you'll hear from me every day. But it also has to be, like, I had a reader email me the other day, and they said, oh, I made your crispy ranch chicken recipe, but the chicken turned out really tough. Why is that? And I said, oh, okay. Lisa, did you use an instant read thermometer? And she goes, I did. And when I pulled it out, I checked the big piece and it wasn't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it back in and I cooked it till it was 165. And I said, oh, okay. So were your pieces different sizes
Mm-hmm.
of chicken? And she goes, yeah, one was big, one was small, but I left them all in there. And I said, okay. So my tip this morning was, if you're baking chicken, don't just
Mm-hmm.
test the big one, test all of the different sizes of chicken breasts that are in the oven, because if it is 2 ounces lighter than the biggest one, it's going to get done 10 minutes earlier. And the reason you
Sure.
have tough chicken is because it's overcooked.
Uh-huh.
And so it was interesting, and it's like being a detective, digging down and figuring out if someone's willing to communicate back with you what they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And so that's a big part of connecting, is listening. And it's easy to get offended. What do you mean
Mm-hmm.
that recipe
Uh-huh.
was, like, oh, every time I made it, it's perfect. And um, well, it's not. And so another thing that I do to make sure that I'm providing um, a good product to my readers
Mm-hmm.
is I test recipes. And,
Mm.
I might make it once and wow, out of the ballpark. Great. Then I get, and or it might take twice, it might take three
Uh-huh.
times. And if that works, then I give it to my mom. And then mom makes it. And then mom's like, that was easy, but I was confused about this part right here. And when that's done, then it goes off to my photographer Kim, who makes it again. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're not just pulling recipes off AI and going, oh, what's meatballs taste like with gravy on it, and give me a recipe, which a lot of people do. These are tested recipes. These aren't just things I pulled out of my pocket. A lot of them are family recipes that have been in our family
Mm.
for years, years and years. And probably my favorite on the blog for family recipes is my grandma's refrigerator pickles.
Oh.
Every time I post them, it's like I have tweaked the title a little bit to add
Uh-huh.
Amish
Uh-huh.
refrigerator pickles, and then so
Uh-huh.
that gets a whole influx of Amish don't have, blah blah blah. But it's a simple recipe. It works every time. And, if somebody comes back and goes, well, I made these and, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you sure you used my recipe?
Uh-huh.
Because it has been in our family for over 100 years,
Oh, I'm
so,
a big fan of pickles. I'm gonna have to pull this one up and make it.
oh yeah. Yeah. My grandma would make buckets of them for us,
Uh-huh.
like gallon-sized buckets when my brother and I would come visit,
Oh,
because we would
yum.
just gobble them down. They were just so
Yum.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it. Um, every email I send has to
Mm-hmm.
have value. The recipes that I send readers, and this sounds silly, but they have to work. If they don't
Uh-huh.
work, they don't belong in the blog. So it's, and then sharing those anecdotes and little life experiences, and just so people know that, number one, I'm a real person, but number two, they can relate to me.
Mm-hmm.
That
So
it's,
for people that kind of don't know how this works, your blog is free to the public. Your email list
hmm
is free to subscribe. Your recipes online are free for the public to take and make and comment. Right, all this is free. So where
that's
is the
correct.
money coming from? Where does the money made?
Monies are made from ads on my site. And so when someone said, "Oh my gosh, there's too many ads," you're not my person. You're not my people.
Uh
There
huh.
are ads on my site. There's a good deal of ads on my site. That's how I make money. That's how I moved my husband. That's why we
Uh huh.
paid cash for our house. It is a business, and I run it like a business.
It's a trade-off. You're not charging a fee for a subscription. And I see a lot of that lately on Instagram, which when
hmm
I am online, which is sort of rare. I mean, I'm online all the time with videos and posts and podcasts, but I'm rarely checking online. My time spent
hmm
online is kind of making sure that I can see what my clients are doing. They got a new cat. I'm looking for reasons to celebrate my people, right? You got a new cat, you got a new car, you got a new job. I want to know all about that. But I've noticed a lot of these are subscription based. Like, oh, you like what I'm doing? And rather than subscribing, which used to be like, oh, yay, thank you for helping me out. Now it's like you're paying for it.
hmm
I tell you, I don't like the way that feels. I'm like, I want to see. There was a girl last night. I was sitting on your couch scrolling, and a girl, like, you want to be a, woman woman of God, here's 5 things you need to know. Well, I'm curious. What do I need to know, Susie? Well, it's a 4.99 subscription a month. And I feel like there's a I don't know. I have trouble with that. Like, I love the value of free. I love supporting and subscribing and sharing and helping other people around me, especially people that I really know in real life. That's so much fun. But I love the way you're doing this, where and if you happen to have Ritz crackers in your recipe, then why shouldn't there be an ad for Ritz crackers with the dollar off?
Yeah,
If that's a
exactly.
problem, then you're on the other direction of subscribing and asking people to pay to have things that you want to give away for free. So it's a
Mhm.
balance, but I love the way you're doing it. I think that's phenomenal.
And it is a balance. And what a lot of folks have found out now, and why you're seeing a lot of those subscription based, is because Google changed the way they actually show blogs to
Uh-huh.
the public. And because of that, people are like, they're not showing my ads anymore. Oh goodness, I need to pivot. And so they're going to do a paid subscription. And I toyed with that idea for a while, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not me. I don't want to do that.
Uh-huh.
I offer a paid subscription. I offer a free meal plan, excuse me, I do not offer a paid subscription. I have
Uh-huh.
free meal plan. The blog is free. The most I'm going to ask you for, I'm going to sell things throughout the year.
Of
Sure. And
course.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Things that
your
you could
option.
use, you could
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
use. Hmm.
There's affiliate links occasionally in the emails, but you're going to be as invested as you choose to be. You can
Hmm.
you can see pretty much everything that's out there without adding your email. But if you want to add your email, then guess what, you're part of the cool kids club.
Yeah.
That's that's when you start getting those conversations.
No, I love
And
that.
I think too, one thing that really benefits and helps people connect is every email that I receive, I answer. I might not like what it
Uh-huh.
says, but every email I answer, every YouTube video, if somebody comments, I reply to their comment. I reply to questions on the blog. It's not someone else, it's me. So it's a very personal experience.
So what would you say to somebody who is new and wants to get into food blogging?
I would say, roll up your sleeves and maybe your pant legs too, because it's a lot of
Uh-huh.
hard work. This is a tough time. Things have changed quite a bit. But if you
Hmm.
wanted to get into food blogging, probably the best thing you could do is, get down and decide, who you want to be when you grow up. Decide what your
Hmm.
what your niche is,
Hmm.
and then, learn what blogging is.
Hmm.
And is it going to happen overnight? No. No, I didn't make any serious money at this until probably I'd been at it for 8 years. So either I'm really dumb and I don't know when to quit, or I have a vision for the future. Either way, you choose. But it's the consistency that pays off.
Well, I would say the same in my, my job of real estate. It's the same thing. When people say, I want to be a realtor, I heard there's a lot of money. There could be. Do you love working 100 to 110 hours a week? And you have
Mhm.
to hold down another full-time job, by the way, for the first 6 months to 6 years until you have enough referral business coming in. Otherwise, you're buying leads. And let me tell you, I would poke my eye out with a spork before I would pay for a lead. It is the
Mhm.
worst. It is the worst kind of job you could have. I mean, it's right up there with like telemarketing for light bulbs. I mean, you do not want to have to do that. It's awful. It's really awful.
Mhm.
But you have to set your sights at what you're willing to do and for how long. If it's something you really, really love and this is what you feel your calling is, then go for it. So what about these women? Like I know I sent one over to you a while back, who was from one of my groups, who's a food blogger but making very, very little money and says, I don't have the money to get coaching or figure out what I'm doing. What would you say to that person?
Gosh, you know, there. This is not once I build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's just not the way it goes. And if you're not, you have to be willing to go the extra mile. And I don't know how many people have came to me and said, can you share this, can you do this, can you do this for me? And I'm like, okay, so now I'm up here as a food blogger with 2.5 million readers, and you're asking me to do this, and in recipient you're going to do the same thing. It's like, no, it's not the same thing.
the same thing. You
Like,
don't have the same list.
no, you don't in the same audience, and
Right.
your mine is this and yours is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this, maybe really small. And it doesn't mean that I'm not generous. I certainly am. But I believe that, you know, I wrote for a gal for years. When I realized I need to learn how to be a better writer. I need to be more interesting. I need to be more efficient with my writing. And I need to be able to hook people. I looked, it's like, do you need a writer? Do you need a writer? Yes, I'm a writer. I couldn't spell it
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. Today I are one. And I worked for a couple of different people for years, because it helped me become a better writer and more efficient. Because at this point, I post 2 to 3 blog posts a week, and that
Mm-hmm.
includes everything. And so if you're going to take 6 hours to take photos, which I don't do anymore, I do pay for,
Mm-hmm.
and then 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, to write the blog post, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
to edit the photos. There's folks that take 16 to 18 to 20 hours for one blog post, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is business. I'm going to be proud of the product that I put out.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the recipe works and the instructions are correct.
Mm-hmm.
But done is better than perfect. This is one of our favorite sayings, Jessica and I
Yep. Yep.
both, is done is better than perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And at after a period of time, you really realize what that means to you and what's
Mm-hmm.
important. Is it more important for me to make money, or is it more important for something to be perfect? And
Mm-hmm.
there's very little in my life that's perfect, so that's really not an option.
No, I'm a fan of the same. So what I'm hearing is, if somebody is doing some marginal work and really wants to bump up, rather than asking for free coaching, which is probably not going to happen from somebody of your caliber that has a successful business running, that's putting your time into your successful business, you'd be better off finding somebody who needs some help so that you can
Yes,
really see what that back end looks like. You can write some blog posts for them, do some free photography, something along that is a way of a trade,
exactly.
which, the trade like we had running a million years ago, which is what, how we really founded our friendship was based on you being like, I'll help you, it's going to be a trade. It's not for free. I can't give away that's not how business works. But if you're willing to give, you're willing to do house cleaning for me, and I had a crew that was able to come in, it worked out that we were able to trade that service for service, and I got so much more out of that than just the ads. I had a business
Hmm.
owner that was like, come on over Friday night. Let me show you how to use MailChimp. Let me show you how to use, newsletters and write posts and see the analytics and all the things that I had no idea how to do. I think that's a great idea for anybody new or jumping into the business to go find somebody that you really admire and offer help in way of trade rather than just asking for a handout.
Right. And one thing I did, and that just kind of came right back to me,
Yeah.
is I actually went to different bloggers and I said, can I write you a
Mm-hmm.
guest post? And what I received back in trade was a link on their blog. So I
Uh-huh.
provided them
Oh,
with
that's a good idea.
photography, writing, like all the things,
Mm-hmm.
and loaded it, and they gave me a link to my blog, which you're like, well, that doesn't sound very fair. Actually, it is. It is, because, like what we're looking for, what we're trying to gain is more authority in our blogs.
Mm-hmm.
And for a small blog to get a link from a big blog, you know, that's huge. That's going to pay dividends to them in the long run. And so I guest post with, I don't know how many different blogs, 20, 25 blogs. And that's like giving away 20 to 25, then again, it wasn't giving it away. It was, um, like earning that link.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big goal, earning that little link.
I mean, it will certainly, we're gonna have show notes for this, but hopefully, I mean, my assistants actually run the program, not me, surprisingly, not me. That can put it through AI for those show notes, because that is a nugget right there, what you just said. And maybe repeat that in case you didn't catch it. Like, I know the story and I didn't catch that until you just said it again on
Okay.
giving away, like repeat that.
Well, if you're looking to grow, talk to food bloggers. Find someone that, if you're a food blogger yourself, find someone in your niche. So if you cook paleo meals, I'd make a
Mm-hmm.
list of paleo blogs and say, my name is Deb. Name of my blog is Bowl Me Over, and I have wanted for years to 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 guest post on your site. And I would really, like whatever the subject is, you tell me and I'll write it. And, because oftentimes what I get are people like, hey, I want to share my product on your site. And I get these daily. I get
Mhm.
several every day, and I move them to junk so I don't have to look at them again. But they'll be like, I sell, pens to underage children or whatever it is, like stupid things that aren't even related to, it's like, how does this relate to a food blog and why would I be interested? And
Right,
I
right.
used to email people back and they would say, oh, whatever it is, I'll write about whatever it is. And I'd
Uh-huh.
be like, okay, do you have original photography? No, I just pull them from, like
Google stock photos.
yeah,
Yeah,
Google stock photos. Like, no, that doesn't work because that's what I require. I mean, I have a list
sure.
of this is what I require for a guest post on my site, and very rarely do people meet that criteria. But there would be
Ooh, I want that criteria for everyone because that's what you should be following. Whether you're going to come to Deb or, girl on paleo or whatever her name is, right? You better know what the heck you're doing before you show up and ask somebody to help you.
Mhm.
You better make sure your trade's worth it. And your best foot better be forward on that first time, or you're not going to get a second opportunity to impress some woman who's
No,
making
because
450,000 a year on a blog. Like, pull it together, girls. Let's make sure we have our best foot forward when we jump in the ring and ask for something from somebody else and show what value we can provide. And I think that's just true of life in general, and really determining our own value. We can go, hey, here's my value, here's what I can do for you to show you my value, and in return I would be, happy if you were gracious enough to, like, throw me a bone because you're such a big superstar and I'm trying to be like you. If you go in with that kind of appreciation for somebody and their work of art, you're going to have a much better response.
yes, yes. And if you go in, that first time, if you don't go in well and strong, I do. I literally, if I get an email that is, if they don't even know my name, but they say, "Oh my gosh, I've been following your blog forever," and then you see, "Pull me over."
Oh my,
Blog
it's like a template, which you're
exactly.
you're giving me secrets right now. I mean, not that this is what I would plan on doing, but now I'm like, maybe I can spin this. Can I do some meatless Mondays? How can I spin this? Just so I can write my
Hmm.
groceries off. It's my goal in life.
Hmm.
Have everything be a write-off as an entrepreneur. Because if you're
There
not,
you
then what
go.
are you doing? I want it all written off. But anyway, you're giving me a great idea because if it's somebody you really follow and you really admire, you know what their spouse's name is. You know who their dogs are. You
Exactly.
know what their last Wednesday post was and how your barbecue benefited from it for your neighborhood. You have a story to tell about that.
Exactly. Exactly. And because if you don't come in with that, that big pitch, that first,
Yes.
you're not going to be seen the second time. I don't
Uh-huh.
care who it is because, like for a long time, I actually took all the words that I consider salesy and I put them in Google. So they just immediately went to junk. So
Oh.
because I don't even want to look at stuff like that. If somebody's trying to, I would like to guess, because it's just a
Yeah.
waste of time.
Right. Right. No,
Because the
I
time's
can
one
only
thing we can't
imagine.
get back. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I think it's really, yeah, putting your best foot forward and offering some value to other people. And if that's what we're really doing in our own business and in our own
Hmm.
life, that's going to be evident online because we're real people in real life. We just happen to be online doing something or trying to create something bigger than that. And that's really going to show. It's going to show who you one of a guy I used to coach said, you can only be self-serving for so long until it's obvious. And I'm like, oh, that's a good one,
Hmm.
Kevin. That is a good one. It
Hmm.
is. And if you're really truly giving, and that's what I want to be known for, being very generous with my time, which is my biggest widget, my time, and help other people, then it's all a win from there.
Hmm. 100%.
So what was on
Good
your
stuff.
I've had a great time spending the weekend with you and getting to try all of your recipes and each thing we make, I go, oh, is this on your blog? Like, is this already something you put out? And then I've already mentioned I'm so amazed that half of the coolest gadgets in her kitchen are Deb and I share the favorite color orange. So like everything is different shades of amazing orange, including this refrigerator. She has an orange leather couch, an orange refrigerator, like a Jetsons very ultra modern orange refrigerator with two kinds of ice cubes. It's been our joke. It's been our joke all week. It's been so fun. My other favorite thing to do with all my best friends is we have, Deb has this accent for one of her dogs, Jones.
Because
And
we talk for our animals. So it's
our favorite
embarrassing, but
thing.
true. Yes.
all weekend. So her fancy refrigerator has big ice
Oh,
cubes and small ice cubes. So it's been our joke all weekend. This is a big cube. This is a big cube kind of meal.
yep,
This be a
yep.
small cube kind of activity. So freaking fun. But
Ah,
I digress. The amount of cool stuff in her kitchen that has come from sponsors, I'm like, I'm in the wrong business. I mean, the amount of stuff that people send you, and again, it has to be on par with what's true to your blog and true to what you're
hmm
cooking. But it has been
hmm
so fun being able, because we haven't done this in years, and I've had a whole weekend to hang out with you and run and make food with you. It's been so fun. So what would you say to people that want you to sponsor one of their products? Like where's minimum criteria have to be if you're sending someone in your caliber a product that I want to have sponsored? What's kind of minimum criteria?
Most sponsorships that I do, 99.9% of them now are paid sponsorships. And I'm not expecting a product. I'm expecting a product. I'm expecting all the things to go with it and to be paid for my time
Mhm.
financially. So, it can run anywhere from 3,000 to $6,000. I don't do affiliate links. Somebody's like, "Oh, do this," and affiliate. No, it's not worth
Uh-huh.
my time. And it doesn't mean that I can't promote that I don't want to promote their item, but this is a business, and as a
Hmm.
business, everything needs to pay for itself.
Yeah, yeah.
The number one thing though, the number one thing, and so I'm really, really picky and choosy about affiliates stuff now, is it has to go along with my audience.
Mm,
So um if someone comes up and says, "Oh, can you promote this super fancy Cuisinart, double whatever coffee maker. It's $3,500 and I'll give
uh-huh.
you one for free and I'll pay for, $2,000 for this." I would probably have to say, you know, I would like one of those myself. I think that sounds amazing. But I know my audience who are 25 to 40-year-old family, young women,
Mm-hmm.
either single moms or young families, they can afford that. And so if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, singing their praises, they're not even reaching their audience because we know that that's not who they're looking for, the
Mm-hmm.
super fancy coffee maker. So yeah.
I think that's really important. Yeah, I think that's really important in staying true to what you're doing and true to who your audience is and not just taking everything and just trying to figure out what fits. You did a really good job of figuring out what that was going to look like initially and then building from there. And I think that's
Mhm.
a lesson that all of us need in business, especially as women, because I want to make everything work and I want to help everybody and that's just not realistic in business. You have to find
No,
your niche.
it's not realistic in life. I know I'm not going to make everyone happy.
Mhm.
So I can't try. I can't lose sleep over that. I can do my very best. I know my audience is a younger audience, but I have folks that are, 20 years older than me that email me every day.
Uh-huh.
"Deb, have you seen blah, blah, blah?" And it's like, "Wow, Larry, I haven't seen that yet." And people that send me pictures of their dogs when I send pictures of mine. And I love that. I love that connection with my audience, my friends, because they really are.
These are, oh, well, you have a great friend group as well. I think something that seems obvious, but you've done a really good job of doing from the beginning as well, is one brand. Everything is Bowl Me Over. It isn't different. Anywhere I type in Bowl Me Over, I will find you on every single platform, on a blog. It's the same on YouTube, Instagram, X, whatever platform is out there, you are Bowl
Yes.
Me Over. There isn't any differential. And I love that your picture really looks like you too, because I don't, you don't always see who the real person is. I see some, and I hate filters. You will never find me using a filter unless it's something that, what's my girlfriend's name that does these? Ellie. Every picture I have with Ellie is on a filter because Ellie does my picture. Otherwise, I do not have a filter. I've never used them. I don't believe in them. I want you to know what I really look like in real
Exactly.
life, you know? And I think that's important that I just come across as like, this is me, you know? But you've done such a great job of branding that. Can you speak to that real quickly too about, branding and finding something that really works for whatever it is you're going to do?
I don't know that I'm an expert in that field, but I do know from my years back at
Mm-hmm.
marketing is that I am the face and I am the voice of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I haven't always had gray hair. I used to have brown hair. And I realized one time it was funny. I was making some YouTube videos, and the guy that was helping me, he's like, Deb, we need to redo your picture because your picture doesn't look like you anymore. And this was after or actually it was like midway through the pandemic. And,
Uh-huh.
life changed then. And, so whatever it is, anything that goes out with my name, whether it's blog post or my email or Instagram, it all has that same headshot.
Mm-hmm.
And like, is this a fancy headshot that I went down and paid thousands of dollars? No, it's a selfie I took with my phone. I was
Thank
wearing a
you for being
sweatshirt at the
real. Thank
time.
you for being real and raw about all of those things that I think really matter. I think one, yeah, it has to be consistency, like across the board. There has
Hmm.
to be consistency, and I truly believe people really want to know who you are. Most of
Yes.
my videos are done from my Tesla, usually while I'm charging, because I don't believe in downtime. I believe in like doubling down whenever possible. So if I'm charging, I'm also doing videos. And that is often as I leave the gym and I don't have makeup on, I'm still in a sports bra. That's where the majority of my videos are. And I'm proud of that. That's who I am. And I'm scrappy. That's who I am. I'm not going to show up in a pantsuit. That's not where you're going to catch
Mm-mm,
me. It's just not.
mm-mm.
That's not who I am. I'm a good value, and I really want to provide value for my clients. And I think when you find that niche and you find what's really, really important to you, then it's going to be important to other people. And anything less than that is going to be less than authentic.
Less
And
than
that's not
authentic.
what I want to be. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Authenticity, biggest word out there.
Yeah. Well, I love how
100%.
you've created the whole office around you. And I'm sure everybody can see these cutting boards. You had somebody design this for you.
Hmm.
Do you do a lot in your office where people can see this, or is this just like your inspiration?
It's my inspiration, but it's also, where I sit for Zoom meetings most
Uh
times.
huh.
And, I was inspired by another woman and her background, which was just big
Uh
blocks
huh.
of color. And I was like, that's super cool. But I'm a food blogger. So let's make it more related to food,
Uh huh.
So
Uh huh.
it turned out really cute. I'm just so pleased with how it is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, because the whole time we were doing our mastermind, you were using the sunroom because it was really early in the morning because most of our girls had a 8 to 5, and so we did it early in the morning. And Deb was using her sunroom, and her husband and puppies were still asleep. So I only saw this portion of the house. This is the first time I've seen this in real life, and it's
Yes.
stunning, stunning. So I would say, yeah,
Thank you.
definitely find something that works for you. If you're a food blogger, you better have an office that represents food blogging and brings you some inspiration, especially if we're going to be doing a podcast or videos or a lot of Zooms where people are going to see who you are and what you're about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips for our audience today on ways to become a billionaire blogging bestie?
Okay, so I'm not a billionaire blogging bestie, but I think I just keyed into it, which is every day do something that benefits your blog.
Mm,
Every single day. Might be little. Some days it's going to be a lot larger, but every single day I work to improve my blog,
hmm
whether it's a little bit or a lot. And it's the consistency over a period of time that pays off. Do I go on vacation? Absolutely. I go on great vacations. Um, but I make sure that something's happening every day on my blog. There's things you can automate. There's still ways of getting information out there. And if my kids are going back to school, I'm just gonna drop it for 6 months. That's great. That's what hobby bloggers do. I'm not a
hmm
hobby blogger.
hmm
I'm a
hmm
professional blogger. This is a business, and that's how I run it.
I love that. Okay, well, I think we've told everybody where to find you. Bowl me over. Everywhere across
Bowlmeover.com.
every platform. And if you want to know all about Deb and her doggies and her husband and really get in tune with like who she is, if this is your person and you're gonna ask to do some what'd you call it? Guest blog
Guest
posts.
posting. Guest
Guest
posting.
posting.
Yep.
Okay. And guest posting again would be somebody who says, I've got this great whatever recipe. I want to make it and put this on, have this go on your blog and do all the work for it, the photography, the recipe, all of the things for it. And then you would be willing to try it if it's somebody who really looked like
Yeah.
they were following you.
Probably what would be ideal is if they came to me and said, Deb, I want to make whatever recipe you need.
Oh, hey, there's
Because
a concept. Yeah.
yeah, because their idea might not be in line with my readers, which
Or even, they
happens
may
quite a
not
bit.
know who your audience is to know, like, is
Exactly.
this going to
Good
work?
chance
Is
they
this,
don't.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody comes to you and says, what recipe do you need? And then they perfect that recipe. You better try it a couple times, girls, before you just come to this superstar, by
Because
the
I'm
way.
going to try
Then
it before I put it on my blog.
you make
You
sure
better,
it's
but
perfect, right? And they would have a
mhm.
video to accompany kind of how to make it, do you think? And
I would love
photos.
that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
something no one's ever offered, because
Ooh,
I
I'm
do
getting
have my YouTube.
ideas.
Yeah, that's a great
Okay.
idea.
Okay. And then they could come to you and ask to put that on. And if it meets with all of your criterion, like this would be a good fit, Bambi, then she would have the opportunity to have that link to her blog come out through your blog with how many people come through your website in a day?
Oh, in a day, it always varies, but my readership is about 2.5 million per month.
Just about 2.5 million. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty freaking big deal to be part of that. So I think you've given some really good tips today. I mean, I'm one of your best friends, and you've given me tips today that I'm like, I didn't think about. That's something I could incorporate in my own business that I could do, and we each, I guess, just know our own niche business. But this, I think, across the board in many different businesses, that would work. Really good tips, and a really great time. I mean, as usual, I get to spend the whole weekend with you, which has been
We had
fantastic,
a
by the
great
way.
time. It was
Just
fabulous.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been well, everybody knows I have an assistant that does like all my, I create content, but she does all my actual posting because I don't know how to make the words come across, understand technology very much. And so I've been with Deb all weekend. I've been posting like 7 times a day. We've been doing all this fun stuff, going on runs, picking blackberries, climbing
All the things.
165 stairs, going to amazing meals. Yeah, it's been so much fun. I've been posting obnoxiously because I just learned how.
And we've
So
had a fun
well,
time doing it. Yep.
it's been so fun. Well, Deb's doing the same thing. I mean, we get home and she rips out her computer right away. Like, I got to talk about everything we did, have 8 recipes to go with it. It's amazing to me to be around that kind of work ethic, which I hadn't even planned to bring up, but because we kind of coined all of this, I think you ought to talk about it. Talk about the power of five.
Oh, the power of five are the people, the five people around you that influence you the most. And
Hmm.
gosh, those five people could be, like a whole bunch of Debbie Downers, and what your influence is going to be. Or they could be the strongest people, the best people, the most committed people, and which is going to benefit. There's
Hmm.
no doubt. And that's something Jess and I have been stringent upon for
Hmm.
years. And there's times when your five will change over the years, and there'll be people that don't work anymore for you, and that's okay. There's always a time and place. Doesn't mean that you don't like them anymore. It just means that close connection, that sharing of knowledge, has to be equal, going back and forth, and they better be
Hmm.
strong. Yep.
Yeah, because your business, just like your life, is going to ebb and flow. And if I'm having a down week or month or season, I especially need women around me that are going to be like, pick it up. I mean, Deb's been the first one when I've come been like, oh, this is some shit. She's like, pivot. This is where you need to pivot right now. And it has been such excellent advice to hear from somebody with a business that knows me intimately to be like, pivot right now. This is the time. This isn't working. You just said it yourself. You need to pivot. And I'm like, you're right. I needed to hear that from somebody I intimately trust to be able to go that way in business. So yeah, we talk a lot about it, or we used to when we were doing the mastermind, but that power of your five, pay special attention to who those people are. And when it changes, something big's rolling in. It is like a tsunami that's going to come through your life in a good way or in a bad way. So pay really careful attention as these people ebb and flow and who's around you, because it has everything to do with your energy and what you're putting out every single day. If you're around really good energy and high producers that you're constantly leveling up, which is why these things change, you're going to level up. And then you're going to be able to help
Mhm.
somebody else level up. And there's nothing better than that, than having that opportunity to help other women, especially women around you, level up.
100%. You know how, I'll relate this back to real estate.
Yeah.
You know, when you buy a house, you want to buy the smallest house in the
Mm-hmm.
nicest neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's who your five should be. Like
Yeah.
I aspire to, like be besties with people that don't even know me yet.
Yeah.
Because their blogs are so large, and it's just like buying a house. You don't want to buy the biggest house in the neighborhood, because it's going to be harder to sell down the road.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No,
So
you're
yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah. But just a constant level up and find
Hmm.
women and people around you that you really, really admire, that you want to be more like. And then you can, I'm using the word infiltrate, but that's probably not the right word to use. But yeah, then you can really get in with your skill set that you have and add value and add resources to somebody else's life and business. And that in turn can really help you. It's all this lifting each other up just again and again and again. We all level up together. It's one of my favorite
100%.
things about having really best friends in business.
We could do a whole podcast on that
That'll be next
next
time.
time.
That'll be next time. Well, for now, really great to see you. Now we'll resume our living room.
Our
Maybe
living
going
room discussion.
opposite sides of the house. Yeah.
Yes.
So for now, friends, see you later.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Can't wait till next time.